Today we're going to be having a look at the Playmates Toys San Diego Comic-Con 2018 Previews exclusive. This is the Voltron Hyper Phase series. Want to say a big thanks to the folks over at Playmates Toys for supplying this sample copy that we're going to be having a look at in this video. Now, the 5 lions that you're presently seeing in front of you are the same ones that we had gotten before from the Netflix series Voltron. Of course, they've got some upgrades in the way of color and a few extra surprises as well. Here's what the box looks like just by its size. I can't put it on the turntable, so we're going to look at it this way. On the front, we've got DreamWorks Voltron, the legendary Defender, a rather cool-looking pose on Voltron there with blazing sword in hand. It does have 50-plus phrases and sound effects. And don't worry, batteries are included. It requires 3 AAA batteries, which are included with Voltron. Combine all 5 lines to form the 16-inch Voltron. Of course, it's a San Diego Comic-Con 2018 release. It's a PX Previews exclusive, and it's limited to 3,000 copies. Let's go ahead and spin the box around. There's the side of it. Here's the back of it, which technically should go the opposite way, so we'll just kind of tilt that up. There's Voltron. Very, very cool looking box. Shows you what the 5 individual lines look like, as well as how to put together Voltron. And Voltron combination complete will save the universe. Last thing I want to show you is that the flap on the box can be lifted up, and inside you've got all 5 lines. You got your black line in the middle, on the left side red line and blue line, and on the right you've got the green line and the yellow line. It technically does have a try me button. There's a little opening here, but I don't know if you can see it. It's not like you can actually get your finger in there to activate any of the sensor buttons. So even though there is the try me button, you really can't try it. So that's what the box looks like. Let's get this opened and have a look at Voltron, the legendary Defender. I'm going to start this review first with the blue and the yellow line. Coincidentally enough, well, no coincidence at all, because I do also have the original releases of the Netflix version of Voltron in their original colors. At the time of shooting this video, unfortunately, I don't know where I put the other 3 lines, that being the green, the red, and the black line. I put them away in storage, but I was successful to find the blue and yellow line. So we're going to have a look at them in comparisons with the new Hyper series. Now, blue line, looking at it solely, you can see that it is identical to the original previously looked at Netflix version of Voltron, right down to the very same collar piece that makes up the top portion, or the area right above its head. They are identical to one another, except for really the swapping out of the color. Instead of going the route of the silver, especially here in the body section of the blue line, you can see that Playmates has given this stunningly bright blue plastic as a swap out instead. The blue plastic does make appearances in several different places on the lion. Here on the interior area, the area in which the robot's legs, the cat's legs, are going to be on, you can see that that has been changed now. Was originally a black, and now has been changed to this very bright blue, which also carries away into the back section of where the tail is, a little bit also on the tail of the blue lion. The faces are, again, identical to one another. Instead of the yellow here on the eyes, you now get the blue here, and the ears are also black with the blue on the sides there. All the functionality of the lines are identical as well. Nothing changes there. The mouths also do open and close on this particular line. Posability, ratcheted forward and back on the legs. It also has a ratcheted joint on the mid leg and also on the lower leg as well. I love ratcheted joints. The back can also be said, ratcheted back and forth. And the legs here, the back hind legs, also hinge back and forth and hinge here on the back, I guess the back ankle area. The tail also goes in and out, but that's more solely to its posability. And there is the blue lion. Blue lion, or really all the lions, come with their own accessories. For example, they do all come with their own flight pods. The pods are a little on the softer side, a softer plastic that they made use of here. And like in with the original lions, there's a little trapdoor on the underside of the line. You just want to get your finger in there. This would be a lot easier, of course, if you had nails. Get your finger in there. Sometimes what you can also do too is use a screwdriver, which I just so happen to have over here. Just a flat screwdriver will help assist pop that open. There we go. And then there's this little, just this little outlined area here where the pod will sit into place. You just want to take that, slide it through. That little opening right there, you just want to slide it through there, and then just kind of press it down. Fills in that area rather nicely. It's almost as if it was designed for that. And then you can go ahead and just pop that back through. You get a little bit of that pod sticking its way out, and then you've essentially got the pilot in place. Now I want to bring in the blue line once again, because the Netflix version, this original release line, had this backpack firing missile, kind of like a crab claw of blue glorious plastic. It had a firing missile. There was a little button on the top there that launched this missile at a considerable distance. Luckily, I think I was able to find all the missiles that came with that initial line. A translucent, slightly ice blue sort of plastic missile. And there's these little clamp points here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we've already looked at these lines, but I just wanted to show you that the carryover is similar, just again a different backpack. So these little grooves on the side, I think probably what I'll do is I'll fire the missile off because I don't want that shooting in my face. Just these lined up, and these little clamps just fit their way into the groove. Let me try that again. Fit into the groove. There we go. And the other side. And you had this little claw firing missile. I say little, it was actually considerably large. Now the Hyper series have, I want to say, upgrades to that. So gone is the way of the clamp, this claw firing missile, and instead it's been upgraded to a much larger backpack. It still has a firing missile, which can be activated by pressing the button on the side there, or on the top, and it shoots off a similar, although slightly different tip. If you are wondering, by the way, can you use the missile from the original? No, you cannot. It just doesn't sit in there. It sits, but it doesn't lock into place. The notch is a little bit further back, and there's also a little tab on the back there that's probably assisting in locking that into place. You get a much larger, though, backpack by contrast to what we got with the original Voltron Lion. The same thing, the same attachment holds true. So you flip the line around, you've got the little notches on the underside here, and you've got these little tab points here. Fit that over, and that fits on one side, and then fits on the other. I will say that this one fits a little tighter than the one we first had a look at, the original released one. It's also a little bit more trickier, I find, to get it locked completely into place. There's one side, and there is the other side. Again, it just fits a little on the awkward side, I have to admit. There we go. It's not 100% in. To line it up, I find, is a little on the tricky side. Just doesn't seem to give you enough clearance. It's exactly the same shape as the area in which it has to fit over. So lining it up can be a little tricky. I find off-aligning it on the one side actually gets a better job of staying in place. And there you've got the blue line compared to the original retail release. Next we'll have a look at the yellow line, and we'll move the yellow line aside to bring in the original. In the same way that the blue was different from one another, the yellow is essentially the same thing. You've got now, instead, the gray has been swapped out for the blue. And it's a nice contrast actually to the yellow line here. The mouth still opens and closes. It is on a spring. Yeah. And if you got that head posability, leg posability, ratcheted knees, ratcheted ankles, hind legs, move back and forth, ratcheted joints there, ratcheted on the hind leg, the hind ankle, I suppose, and the lower hinge on the foot there. Tail also moves in and out, but it's more so just for its transformation. But again, identical to one another, really, except for the color. The color is the only difference. I really do like the new hyper blue that they've added to it. It really does pop, especially when you've got the black. the jet black shiny plastic on the backdrop of the very light, almost ice blue really does look exceptionally good here with the yellow line. The backpacks are identical to one another, this top section right here. The yellow line would have initially come with a disc launching backpack, which would have just fit over top. This would have fit over top. Actually, I think this went, yeah, this went this way here. Just fit sort of over top here. There's a little tab right there. Well, actually two little slots. And that should fit, just there we go, onto the backpack. Fits very securely, and it's not going anywhere. Now for the Hyper Series, yellow line, much like its color upgrade, also got an upgrade for backpack. Now gone is the disc launching. Instead, you get this pretty cool dual missile launching backpack. Just gonna move this line to just to the side. And this fits essentially the exact same way, although the notches on the interior are slightly different. So that just clamps. There's a little tab point here and a little tab point here. I don't know if you can see it. This little notch and this little notch fits on around here, and it fits around to the front. Be mindful though, while you are doing this, you don't accidentally launch the missile halfway across the room. And I will admit, fitting the backpack on, this extra armory, does fit a lot easier on the yellow line, the new Hyper Series, than it did on the original yellow line. It's definitely packed to the brim when it comes to firepower. And these front missiles do fire. You have to, I don't know if you can see it, there's a trigger there, and there's a trigger there. You pinch these missiles into themselves, or pinch them towards the backpack, and it fires the missiles off. Now these can be removable, you can take them right off, and actually, you know what, let me just show you. I'll take this off. There's the little trigger point there, press that, fires it off, and there's what the individual missiles look like. And we'll just go ahead and pop that back on. Fits very securely in place. Doesn't really rotate. I thought by the way it pegged into place that it would allow these missiles to rotate, but it doesn't seem like you can actually turn them. And there is the Hyper Series yellow line compared against the original retail release. One thing I forgot to show you though is, much like the blue line, there's a little compartment here. And the yellow line also has its version of the pod, little flight pod that will fit inside once again. Now this one is interesting because it's got the two turbine fans, like the two propellers on either side. There's the underside there. And that just fits right into place. And then we can just go ahead and close up shop. Like I said earlier, unfortunately for the red, the black, and the green line, I don't have the originals here in front of us, though I can't show you the difference between the two, but essentially same mold, swapping now out of this, loving this bright blue. The eyes are now painted in blue. You've got a couple of now sides of the line's head painted also in blue. Everything else is essentially the same trap door spring shut mouth. Again, the body much more slender, a little bit more sleeker than the yellow and the blue line. These will make up, of course, Voltron's arms. Posability, the head will rotate, due likely to the fact that you've got the wrist articulation when it gets into arm mode. Legs move back and forth. Again, you've got the ratcheted joint on the mid area of the leg, and a ratcheted joint on the feet. Back legs, same idea. Hinge joint. The hinges on the feet, or the back feet here, don't seem to have the ratcheted joints. They just swivel back and forth. And of course you've got the tail. Green line is identical, really, to the red line. A few little changes, actually, that's not true. A few little changes. The head obviously are drastically different from one another. These are carryovers from their original releases. Larger snout on the green line than that of the red line. This one also has the shield, which the original green line also had the shield, just plugs into place there. Even like the interior of the shield has been painted this blue. As best blue as I could describe it, it's almost like a blue raspberry. You love blue raspberry. Again, leg articulation exactly the same as the original. Back legs, feet. Oh, one thing I also forgot. You got the ratcheted joint in the mid. Now this will serve as the elbow point of the line when it becomes the arm mode. And let's have a look at the accessories that include or come included with these two lions. Both the red line and the green line come with their respected pods. Again, softer plastic being used here. Get some additional silver that's been added to the back, as well as the seat has been painted in. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it does also have a visible pilot. Pretty cool. We'll go ahead and once again go to the under area, open that up, slide the pod through, snap. Not really so much snap it in place, but just kind of press it in place, and it fills in the outlined area in which that pod sits. And then we'll go ahead and close that up. The green line, same idea. There's the little pilot on the inside. And we'll lift up the green line, open up the back under compartment. Might want to just grab my screwdriver for this one. There were two lines that were a little on the more difficult side. There we go. To open up the trap doors, slide the pod through, and then close that up. Now, regarding their armored upgrades, the green line now has these two side cannons that do fire off similar blue translucent missiles. A hair trigger, so if you do press these accidentally, they're going to go clearly across the room. To the credit of Playmates toys, the spring is rather strong on both of these, and when you are accidentally pressing it, going to go quite across the room. Now we'll go ahead and attach this in place. We want to go ahead and take the shield off. And this fits just onto the back here. It fits sort of in the groove. Actually, that's not true. Fits kind of on an angle. There we go. It, I will admit, sits a little on the loose side. You have to kind of, let me just show you what's happening here. You have to put the, there goes the missile. I knew it was going to go off. You have to take this tab point here, this little circular peg that in here, and then peg the smaller peg to the front. And I think just for the sake of not losing the missile, I'm going to pop that out. I'm going to push this in through first, and then once that's in, because this is obviously going to sit really loose, you're then going to tab this to the front, and then that's not going to go anywhere. I don't honestly remember what the original top part for the green line was, but I do really like the side cannons. It does look really cool on the green line, especially when you've got the silver on the cannons themselves. The missiles I'll just kind of put to the side for the time being. What's interesting though is that the red line has now taken its cues from the original yellow line, in the sense that it has disc launching. It has a little disc launching a gun here, or a slotted cannon. It comes with 3 discs. There's the discs right there. They are all identical to one another. There's nothing really different between them. And you get 3 of them. They stack into the top here. And then to fire them off, much like the yellow line, you're going to pinch these together. And when you pinch them, it fires off one of the discs. And I'm just going to pop these discs out because I don't want those firing across the room. Similar idea to the green line, except for the fact it doesn't have 2 pegs, it has 1 peg. You're just going to attach that, peg it into place, and you've got yourself a considerably front-heavy, yet very cool red line. And then we can go ahead and just add those discs in place once that's in place, so that's not going to fire off. And of course, the one other accessory, we've already looked at the shield for Voltron. They also do come included with the blazing sword. And the blazing sword just takes this little bit of cardboard out here. There we go. And the blade slides right into place, just exactly like its original. And it fits the plastic section, this translucent blade, fits in the little notch here, the little groove of the handle portion. And then once connected in place, you've got yourself the blazing sword. By far my favorite line is the black line, and by far my favorite of the Hyperface series is also the black line. It's because it inherits, with now the addition of the blue, these glorious translucent blue wings. Now there is a little bit of additional gold that they've painted on the outside area of the wings, but it does look really cool by having the blue plastic now incorporated. It almost looks like they're made out of ice. The blue also carries its way across the top shoulder areas of its front legs, and some additional blue on the slotted areas of its face. Again, the face will open up, or the head will open up. The mouth section will reveal the face of Voltron. And we'll talk about that all in a second. For the black line's posability, again, it's a much bigger beast than that of, say, some of the smaller lines. Of course, we've already seen the comparisons between the two. This one does also have a little bit extra weight because it not only holds a battery compartment and on and off switch, but a series of phrases that we're going to cycle through. Of course, there's going to be two different types of phrases, one of which being for the line itself, when the line's not connected and merged as Voltron, and then there's a secondary set of phrases once Voltron has been put together. To activate the sound effects, it's this switch on the side, which actually, theoretically, you could have used when there was the Try Me opening in the slot. For some reason, I remember the button being down here or in the chest area, but no, in fact, the switch is located on the side. And to press that,
now, we will destroy you.
You'll see that this section here lights up, as well as the sound will emit through the slotted area of the speaker.
Voltron is the only thing that can stop Zarkon. Now, we will destroy you.
Now, for the black line, the same things, the same posability stays true for this particular release. You've got articulation in the legs. You've got articulation in the back knuckle area, or the elbow area of the leg, and the front section here as well is also ratcheted. The head doesn't sadly rotate, nor did the original release rotate. However, the hinge up and down allows for some head posability when he's not made into Voltron. These wings are really cool because these swivel back and forth. They also hinge back and forth. Also, there's a hinge in the interior section of the wing, allowing the wings to move back and forth. And you can also, or I thought these could rotate, there's a little screw actually on the inside there, but they can rotate also this way as well. Let me just do that from the front so you guys can see. So the wing can fold back, the wings can fold out, and the wings can also fold up, depending on how you want to display it. We spin it around. No waist articulation, so that for Voltron,
need to increase firepower.
For Voltron, you will not be able to rotate the waist. The tail moves back and forth, and
Let's light this thing up.
and the hind legs, if not activating this by accident, the hind legs also hinge back and forth. They have a stopping point. They can't go any further than this. However, they hinge back more so for the posability and when you transform them into Voltron. The back legs, the back knees of the legs hinge back and forth, and this also hinges back and forth to the foot. One section here, and a secondary section in the foot itself. Black Lion also gets his own speeder. This one I find isn't as soft as the other four lions, but nonetheless you do have your pilot right at the back, and the sides have been painted in a glorious metallic silver. Now for the cockpit, the area in which the speeder is going to go into, it's located actually on the side rather than having the hinge on the front like the other lions. You open that up, take your speeder, tuck it in there, just in this little opening here, and it just tucks into the back, and then we can go ahead and close up shop. To get ourselves ready to form Voltron, let's go ahead and start with the legs. I'm going to go ahead and take the hyper armor off, as we don't need these on either of the lions. I'm going to start with the yellow lion. You can want to bring this back, this front canopy. Just want to slide that back. You can bring the head up. Take the legs, fold them back. They don't necessarily lock in place, but what you want to do is just bring the leg up, fold that around, and it sort of helps to give a heel, like a back heel, to hold the foot upright. And then take the back legs, you can push the tail in as far as it will go. Bring the back legs, tuck them inside the interior of the thighs. Do the same thing on the other side there. And then you want to just bring that around. And there is the yellow line, the foot for Voltron. We'll go ahead and do the same thing with the blue line. I'm going to take the missile off because I know I'm going to fire that off. Untab this, take off the hyper armor, Same idea, you want to fold this up, although it doesn't slide up like the yellow line, instead it sort of just hinges up. Bring the head up, fold the back legs up and around to get yourself the heel. Foot's a little on the loose side, but that's okay. Bring this up, fold this down, and you've got yourself the heel. And the same thing like the yellow line, you're going to retract the legs into the sections of the thigh, tuck in the tail, and there you've got the 2 legs for Voltron. Now let's go ahead and work on the arms. To transform the red and the green lines into the arms for Voltron, it's going to be a little bit different than what we did with the legs, but if you've already picked up the Netflix Voltron, it's identical to that transformation. We'll go ahead and take off the Hyperphase armor first. We don't need that for the red line. And for this, we're going to fold back the legs, similar to what we just did with the 2 leg components for Voltron. We can bring those around. Tail's already tucked into place, we don't have to worry about that. You can rotate this if you so wish, or you can just wait until you've merged and made Voltron. And the only more difficult part about with the red and the green line is the fact that with the legs, you have to fold these up. So what we want to do is we want to bring this up as much as we can get it in, and these will tuck into place. But first, you sort of have to get that as high up as you can get it, and you want to tuck the legs in on itself, inside its own, it's essentially its own shell. Once the legs are in place, there we go, you can then tuck the feet in. Let me just show you, like that. And like, sometimes the feet do get stuck, just like that. And then you can go and close that up. Now you've got the arm. You can rotate this if you want. That's going to be the bend for the elbow of Voltron. And there's the one arm. Let's do that with the green line. Just want to take that off. Fold in the legs. Bring those around. Again, the trickiest part is just getting the arms prepped. There we go. Sometimes this may not be far enough up that you can tuck the legs in. Bring those in. Tuck them in as far as they will go. And then you want to just bring the legs around. Once you get past this point, you're almost home free. There we go. Tuck that in place. Close that up. Make sure that's in 100%. There we go. I just didn't have it tucked in all the way. And close it up. You'll get a nice satisfying snap. Got your wrist articulation. Got your elbow articulation. We've got ourselves now 2 arms. Let's have a look at the black line. Black line, understanding the way that Voltron's going to work, he's going to be standing upright like this. So what you want to do is take the tail, just going to bend that out of the way, get the wings out of the way because you don't really need them. You can adjust those wings later on if you'd like. Bring the arms down, open these up, the front flaps here, and you want to take the black lion's legs, just bend that up a little bit. Just trying to get that. There we go. That's what we wanted. Take that, fold that all the way in, and then close that up. Do the same thing on this side. The hardest thing for at least the black line is getting the foot, the ankle here, bent properly that it will fold in itself. Close that up. Then go ahead and straighten out the legs. Straighten out the feet. Straighten out the legs. Straighten out the feet. And that's it. Obviously, the other thing to do is reveal the face, but we'll wait until we put together Voltron to do that. Now, I suppose when you are making Voltron, you don't necessarily have to have the blue line on this side, the yellow line on this side. I'm just going by the way the packaging has it. The packaging has the line on that side. So we're going to go ahead and take the foot, and this little opening on the top of the blue line, or the back rather, that of the blue line, you're going to slot Voltron's black line foot into that.
I'm right there with you. We need to increase firepower.
And that's going to lock that into place and also trigger an audio. Go ahead and do the same thing with the yellow line. You've got that little trapdoor opening on the top. Slide through the black line.
Whatever you say, hero.
And lock it into place. And you can go ahead and just kind of straighten out the legs, make sure Voltron's going to be upright and standing successfully. Now we can go ahead and add the arms. Once again, referencing the packaging, the red arm is on this side of Voltron, the green arm is on this side. It is because you've got the tab point here, the connector point for Voltron on this side. Now really, if you wanted to have it on this side, it's simply just a case of swapping it around. But I'm going to go ahead and add the arm on this side as the red line. The green line I'm going to put on this side. So once this is brought out, see there's a little square peg here, a little square slot. You're going to fit this in place, but there's only one way it will go. This little bottom section, it's not quite a perfect square. You've got a little extra tab at the bottom. That's going to slot into place.
We need the red lion.
And red lion is a go. We're just going to, all right, we just going to put it in on the side. There we go.
I'm on it, Shiro.
And then we can bring it around. Same thing with the green line.
Pinch, fire up the green lion. We're coming in hot.
Just give him a stand here. There we go. Bring out the tab for the green line. There we go. And put that in.
Fire up the green lion. We're coming in hot.
Once again, the shape, the extra tab point is at the top, so we want to put this on the side. Oops. There we go. And bring that around.
Blue lion, ready for action. Red lion, ready for battle. Green lion, all systems go. Yellow lion engaged. Red, green, black, blue, and yellow lions detected. Voltron operational.
Finally, for the last step, and of course you know I had to keep that as the last step, we're going to bring the head down, open up the faceplate, or open up the lower jaw, and now you've got Voltron completed. Let's flip Voltron around and bring up his wings. There we go. And there you have, ladies and gentlemen, a completed Voltron. One thing about Voltron's elbows, though, is that the hinge joint doesn't really allow you to move the arms forward and back too much. One thing that you can do is take the hind legs of both the red and the green line, and you can also bring those up. It does give them, unfortunately, a little bit more of a back, like a little bit more of a shoulder pad, but it doesn't limit the possibility of then moving the elbows back and forth. Again, you can do that on either side. It's really your own preference. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But I do find that bringing these up do allow for some additional posability in the elbows here. One, of course, can't forget the blazing sword, and we'll just go ahead and open up the red lion's mouth. And because this is a spring clamping mouth, it does a great job of holding the blazing sword in place. Now we can go ahead and cycle through the sound effects that now a completed Voltron will vary from the black line on its own. We'll go ahead and press that button again.
Pinch, form shield.
My shield can't take much more of this.
We need to increase firepower.
We got you, buddy.
Let's light this thing up. Fire lasers. Now we go on the offensive.
Even though I don't have a fully completed Netflix Voltron assembled, I have to find my black line, my green line, and my red line. I do have one other comparison we can make. The new Hyper Phase Series Voltron, of course, here he is on the right. And we can bring in my all-time favorite Voltron. This is the classic Voltron. Also came to us from the folks over at Playmates Toys. Now, I've got this Voltron proudly displayed on my shelf as my go-to Voltron. This is still loved the look of the classic design, but you can see the differencing between the two. The Hyper Series, a much more futuristic looking Voltron. And again, I'm digging the blue on the Hyper Phase series here. So now that he's fully merged, let's have a look at his posability. Now, like I said, he doesn't have, sadly, any posability in the head other than for the fact that you can hinge the head up and down. The arms now rotate back and forth due to the shoulder sections on the black line. The arms can also hinge outward. The forearms both rotate. You have hinge joints on the actual elbows. And the hands, now the heads of the lions, now the hands on Voltron, also rotate. No waist articulation, however the legs do split out. They move forward. They move back.
Roger that.
He has a hinge joint now in his knee, and he has a secondary joint where it attaches to the individual feet or legs of the lions. And I guess to some extent he does have foot articulation, although you really wouldn't be able to do that anyways if you wanted to have Voltron standing straight up. He does suffer, unfortunately, from the same problem of really just any robot being overly big. He's a little bit top heavy. But I do find if you can get the legs spread wide enough and the lions being a firm planting, you can get Voltron actually standing perfectly fine. It does, again, involve a little bit of, just compensating for the fact you really wouldn't want to have the legs completely straight because Voltron may topple over. To disassemble Voltron, the legs are pretty straightforward. It's just simply a case that you're going to be pulling the legs out. So you just go ahead and reach onto the leg, pop that out. We'll go ahead and grab the other leg, just kind of give a good firm grip to the thigh area of the black line, and just kind of yank, there we go, yank the blue line out. The same trick actually holds true for removing the arms. If you had the original Netflix Voltron, you just want to get these kind of wings out of the way here. Take the arms, and what you want to do is you want to bring the arm up and then swing it this way. Swing it this way and pull out the arm.
Great work, team.
And you remove the arm like that. We go ahead and do the same thing on the red line. Bring it up and swing it this way while pulling it forward.
Not backing down.
And it pops off a lot easier actually than the original. I thought that the retail release of Voltron, this particular set, had a little bit more of a trickier time of getting those arms removed. It doesn't seem to be the case now, that I'm wondering if Playmates has done something different.
Have your back, Keith.
Let's go ahead and switch that off. I wonder if Playmates had done something different to the mechanism here. I just find it's a lot easier to remove the hyperphase version of Voltron than it was the original release. Again, once that's in place, take the arm and just kind of swing it this way. And it pops off extremely easy. Fans of the DreamWorks Voltron Legendary Defender series and who were lucky enough to attend San Diego Comic-Con for 2018 got first dibs to grab the Hyperphase series 16-inch Voltron. Unfortunately, with limited to only 3,000 copies, if you weren't able to attend SDCC for this year, you'll unfortunately have to try to scope out and grab Voltron for yourself in aftermarket. And I can only imagine with a limited quantity of 3,000 copies worldwide, unfortunately, prices probably will be a little bit higher if you wanted to pick this one up for yourself. But I would say it is a pretty cool new color scheme for the already cool Voltron that we got in retail store releases. The phrases I think are the same as what we had gotten before. The molds are exactly the same, but I do dig the new hyperphase armor that each of the individual lions have. And like I said, the icing on the cake is the ice blue color scheme that each of the corresponding lions have gotten, especially in those wings. I think those wings are extremely cool. Again, today we were having a look at the San Diego Comic-Con 2018 PX Previews exclusive of the Hyperphase series 16-inch Voltron. And again, a big thank you to the folks over at Playmates for making this review possible. If you guys haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below yet, make sure you do so. Many more videos will be coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you next time.